I'm Jeremy Engle with Viral Mortgage, and I have with me today.
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you for having me. My name's Apple, and I have been great friends and working with Jeremy for the last 14 years of my real estate career.
Time flies when we're having fun, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you a couple questions today. One of the most interesting things in this industry is I don't think many people get into our industry, you don't graduate from high school and go, I want to be a real estate agent. I mean, I guess some people
Some people do.
might,
Yeah.
but that's not how I got in,
Yeah.
and I'm guessing that's not how you got in.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
So why don't you take us from what you did before and how you ended up here and go from there.
Okay, awesome. Well, Jeremy, first off, thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm super excited to just share a little bit of our insight the last past decade. So, man, how I got into real estate, 14 years ago almost seems like a blur, but I'll never forget the reason why. Prior to real estate, I worked at the local casino out in Lemoore, and I worked out there straight out of high school. So I was out there for about 9 years, and of course I'm a mom, and there came a time where I was asking for time off to have my oldest son's birthday party, and I was told no.
Ooh.
So I was just like, man, he was about 8 years old, and I quickly realized I don't want anyone to tell me no when I'm going to have my son's birthday party and if I can have that day off.
Yeah.
So I literally was like, okay, I've always wanted to get into real estate. I don't know where that idea came about. I honestly think it was because of the real estate agent that helped me buy my house when I was 22 years old.
Wow. So you bought
Yeah.
your first house at 22.
At 22 years old.
That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I took the real estate courses. I think it was in 2011, that spring of 2011, and I finished the courses in April of 2011. I can't believe I still remember this. And my son's birthday was in June. I quit my job after 9 years. I was almost making $100,000 a year, you guys. It's kind of crazy.
That is
I
crazy.
quit it cold
And
turkey.
that was
Yeah.
I mean, not that that's not a lot of money, but
Yeah.
back then
it was a lot of money.
lot of money.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it back then that it was a lot of money. But
Yeah.
and it was literally July 2nd. I quit cold turkey that in 2011.
So you got your license which day?
July 2nd, I quit. July 17th, I took the test. So I hadn't even I didn't even have my license yet.
So you just knew you were going to be
Yes.
destined for it.
Yep.
Wow, that's awesome.
I passed the courses at the COS college. I was done with the courses in May of 2011. I took the test, or I quit my job July 2nd of that year, took my test July 17th, and I was at a real estate office August 2nd. Selling real estate.
That's amazing. So
Yeah.
that's not really like a leap of faith. I would say that's like jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I almost
I've
forgot
done
my
that too.
parachute.
Yeah, no,
you
I've
know?
done that too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Did you take the classes with my father-in-law?
Oh my gosh, Sam. I think he was like the best instructor for me. I still remember Sam saying, okay, you guys have all of your books, right? And we're like, yes, right? We're like ready to open up our books.
He's like,
He
"Throw
said, throw it away because we're never going to use it. Back into, I hope I don't get him in trouble.
No,
Back
no,
in
you're good.
2011, and I was
You're
like,
good.
okay. And he's like, because everything you're going to learn in real estate is going to be out in the field. It was
Yeah.
the best advice that I've ever heard anybody to this day tell me about real estate.
Yeah. I mean, there is a time where something will come across my desk or something happens and I go, oh my gosh, this was actually on the real estate test. Like
Yeah.
I'm using this like 15 years later or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this actually happens, you know?
Jeremy, literally the only thing I remember from all the courses on the test was how many square feet is a mile.
5,280? What is
I mean, not a mile, I'm sorry,
Oh.
on an acre. 43,560.
Okay. I think 5280 is
the mile?
maybe, I hope.
I don't know.
Well, I
So
should have just been
literally,
more confident. No one will
yeah,
fact check me on
yeah,
that, but
yeah,
it's going to be pretty close.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I remember that. And there's just a couple other random stories. I remember the guy's eyebrows. I did the crash course and the video, and they were like pointed up. They were really weird.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, I mean that's how I passed. I don't
Yeah.
I have to be like listening. Like I'm not
Hmm.
a read the textbook kind of person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was
Okay,
very exciting.
so is that when you at that point were you at Century 21?
I
Yeah.
was at Century 21 because the agent that helped me sell my house out there in Lemoore, helped me buy my house and sell my house out in Lemoore. He was at Century 21, so um, and that's where I first started selling real estate
Nice.
back then.
Nice.
Yeah,
And then from there we met because your neighbor in your office was
yeah.
my wife.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I still
Yeah.
remember. I used to tease you. I tell everybody, I remember when Jeremy used to come around with like bags of M&Ms with his business card stuck to them or Snickers bars.
Yep.
It was like once every month or once every other month. And I'm like, I miss those candy bars. You know?
Well, I will have to get better at doing that. The
Yeah.
problem these days, like, I wish it still was like that because I actually did enjoy that.
Yeah.
But remember back then, you would walk into an office, like even a small office, there
Yeah.
might be 5 people in there.
Yeah.
In a big office, you might run into 40 people. But today,
Yeah.
you know,
It's everybody works from home.
yeah,
Yeah. That's how I met Michelle. Michelle
yeah,
obviously was there because Sam was there and
yeah.
you know, and she introduced herself, and she was like, "Do you know my husband?" And I'm like, "No." And then, of course, quickly I knew you. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
so
Well, I'd always come and hang out
yeah,
and try to
yeah,
get some deals, you
yeah.
know. That was
So
fun.
it was
Um,
fun.
let's see. So let's move forward, jump forward a decade or
Yeah,
so. And today you're a big agent and you have a big team.
yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about your team and kind of like how you've structured it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the longest time, I had no desire to even build any kind of a team. You know, early on, it was like head down, go to work, and I just learned quickly. You know, probably after my sixth year, you know, I've had a real estate coach for probably, I still have one today, 12 out of my 14 years of my career, and so it was like, Apple, you're leaving a lot of money on the table kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Right. So they're like, you should get help.
Wait, you used to deal cards, right?
I used to deal cards. Yeah.
So you
at
know
the
what leaving
casino.
money on the table means,
Yes.
right?
Oh, I know.
Okay.
And I know what taking money from people meant too. So, yeah. But in real estate, they were like, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. And I didn't
Sure.
really know what he meant by that. And he was like, who takes the calls from your listings that you put up? And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't even know that people are calling half the time on my signs, you know? And so he was like, okay, I think we should start looking into getting a buyer's agent. And my definition of a buyer's agent back then was get your husband licensed, right?
Yes.
So
Of
my
course.
first team member was like my husband and then my best friend's daughter who is with me still today. And
That's rad.
yeah, so that was like the beginning stages of my team almost 8 years ago. And I kept it really small. And then almost 3 years ago, I was introduced to an organization that I partnered with and named Place,
Yeah.
and they shared with me how to grow.
Yeah.
So, and literally, I grew fast. It was like my first year, I failed successfully. I tell everybody, I literally went from 3 agents to 19 the first 12 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, like, I had a bunch of people leave. Like, that's
Yeah.
just part of growing. Because,
I
like,
think when you grow that fast,
Yeah.
it's too hard to
Right.
manage,
yeah.
you know.
And I had no idea how to lead. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
know how to run a team or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I was still learning. It was like, let me see if I can even get people to come on board kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so now it's more stable. My systems, I was able to expand it to where it can support a team structure with the amount of people I have on my team today.
Okay.
So now we have 9 full-time agents, and we have 5 part-time agents that I'm helping transition and to become full-time agents.
Because they didn't just quit their job when they got their
No.
real estate license.
No, we've had we as much as I know. I'm like,
I'm
you should
picking on
just
you.
you should just burn the bridges and go all in. Like not everybody can do that or
No.
even has a stomach for that, right?
That's definitely
Yeah,
that's pretty cool that you're
Yeah.
able to do that.
yeah. Everybody tells me they're like you're crazy. I'm like,
And
I know
then
sometimes.
you have some admin as well.
Yeah. So I probably overstaffed in the beginning just because it was a cool thing to do back then, right? And everyone's like,
Hired assistant.
Yeah, hired assistant, full-time assistant, whatever. But anyway, but
I,
now I have.
I feel like in my industry, it's like people want to build a team, like lending. Well, obviously we're in the same industry, but you're in the sales, real estate, and I'm in lending.
Yeah.
I think that everyone's like, oh, I want to build this team, and I'm like, we don't build a team until you need it,
Right.
or at least until
you're about to.
yeah,
grow.
like obviously you want to do it before you actually need it, because then
Right.
you're buried.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the mentality a while back was, oh, I need to build this team, and I'm like, well, just do it yourself and keep the income.
Right.
Like you're
Right.
gonna cut it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
But now I have one full-time assistant and then I have one full-time virtual assistant. And the way we have
What
this,
country is the virtual assistant from?
she's from the Philippines actually, and she's
Okay.
absolutely amazing. Also, we've had her for 3 years now, and between her and so her name's Christine, and my she's my operations manager. She's like my right hand person. Between her, Christine and Amber, like they run the show. They make us look so good.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
it's so important to have that support system
Yeah.
from them for sure.
And you didn't
Yeah.
have that when you hired on the 19 people?
Oh, I did.
Before? You did.
I did, but I mean,
you didn't
we
have
were
the
not
systems
even
in
ready.
place, yeah.
I mean, my systems were, solid, but to support one, one person pulling up at them,
Yeah.
right? And
They're
that's
like, oh God.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm already like super intense.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have this one person who's super intense plus 10, 12 more personalities, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
no offense, realtors can be strong
Oh my
personalities.
gosh. Yeah.
But I love you all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We don't know who you're going to be today. You're like interest rates, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, not to mention lenders can be too, especially with the roller coaster we deal with
Yeah.
on a daily basis, sometimes by the hour, you
For
know.
sure.
Um, in real estate today, do you still, are you still meeting with, doing listings and meeting with buyers yourself?
Yeah. So, not early on in my career, probably, I don't know, third, fourth year. This is a story. Is one of those horror stories when you show a buyer back then, right? Like nowadays, we have to have that buyer agreement signed before
Oh,
we can
yeah.
even show houses,
That's
right?
definitely,
Well, back then, I'm sure it still happens today. We didn't care. We'd get in the car, bring our buyers on board, and we'll show 20 houses, and
Yeah.
hopefully they'll write up an offer.
or not be working with someone else and didn't tell you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? Like after $500 worth of gas,
Yeah,
you're like,
exactly.
crap,
Yeah.
So it actually happened to me. I felt the pain early on in my career. I showed 16 houses to a friend of mine's sister and their, husband back then. And literally, I went out of town one weekend. This is how it always happens, you guys. So if it's happened to you, I feel your pain. And completely went to a different town that they said they weren't interested in. Saw a sign, called the listing agent. There was no agreement with me, so they were like, and I come back from out of town, I follow up, and they're like, oh my gosh, Apple, we're so excited. We're getting our keys in 30 days. And I'm like, what do you mean? And so that day.
They had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
that-
hard. And I think because we're in the sales industry, and we're commission based, a lot of people that work for a paycheck, 8 to 5, clock in, clock out. They just assume that we get that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And early on, you're
I know
trying
it
to
hurts,
figure
but I
out,
feel like it
right?
hurts less that they had no clue.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know,
Exactly.
had they just been like, "Oh, you're out of town, sorry,"
Yeah. Yeah. And didn't really care. Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
you're just like, "Oh my God, how
I
did you
know.
not know?"
I know. I still
So
remember,
yeah, sorry.
Jeremy, no,
Oh,
no,
go
no.
ahead.
I still remember you had called one year, and that day I was like, okay, I'm not working with buyers. I'm just going to focus on working with sellers. And I still remember one year, Jeremy's like, hey. I'm like, hey. And you're like, you doing okay? And I'm like, yeah. And you're like, how come I haven't seen you like send over application, And
Yeah.
I'm all, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah. So
Right?
you working with sellers
Yeah.
directly hurt me and my
Yeah.
family.
Sorry. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
And
I
my
was,
feelings.
yes. And I didn't even think about it. That was probably the same time that I was told by my coach back then that I was leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
Right? That I should still be working with buyers to connect them with my listings. So to answer your question, am I still taking listings? 100% yes.
Yeah.
Right? The buyers, it's hard for me. Right now, referrals that I get that are not direct past clients or direct friends, I do refer that out to my team.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So.
Well, your team's going to have more time to drive them around and show
Yeah.
them houses and
Yep.
give them
Yeah.
the time they need.
Yep. And also, it's to help them, get their business up off the ground, right? Because let's face it, when you're brand new, it's harder for you to take that first listing and to focus on sellers because buyers are going to be a lot faster of a sale than sellers are when you're a brand new agent.
Yeah.
Right? It really is it just happens that way. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
What makes a great partnership between an agent and a lender?
Man, Jeremy, I tell you what, the length of a business relationship with anyone in the industry is so important.
Yeah.
It really is. I know you have watched me grow.
Yeah.
Right? I've also watched you grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, everyone's going to say one of the biggest things in the relationship is communication.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But one of the things that I absolutely love working with you guys, you and your team, and I think works really well with our dynamic, is that before I even send over a link to an application, before they even complete that, because you guys are so good about, hey, Jeremy, here's a referral, or Faith, or Allie, whoever, right?
Yeah.
You guys are going to call them right away.
Sure.
Before I even do that, I'm already gauging what my client is like, and I'm going to call you.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I just want you to know this client is this, this, and this.
Sure.
You may want to communicate with them in this way.
Yeah.
Right? So that way, like, if I were to give you someone who is very like amiable and soft spoken, right? And you go in there, this strong Jeremy, like, hey, how's it going? Super fast talking, you're gonna scare my client.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I love being able to give you guys feedback before you even connect with my client.
Yeah, like this person's going to need extra hand holding.
Yes.
This person is a CPA and just wants numbers or,
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah.
And another thing that's worked really well, I feel like, with our relationship, and I tell my team this also right now, it's hard to give honest feedback, right? And I think it's so important. If you are going to stay in this industry, regardless of whether or not you're a lender, a realtor, or, escrow person, whoever, even home inspections, it is so important to give honest feedback with the people that you're working with if you want to continue to work with them long term.
100%.
Right?
I tell people that all the time because, like, I say if there's something we're doing wrong, like, as much as it'll hurt my feelings and it sucks to hear, I would rather hear it than have you disappear.
Yes, exactly.
So, because that hurts way worse.
Yep.
Financially and,
So I tell my team all the time, if they're like, Apple, this, and this, right? Whatever. It could be you, could be anybody that we're working with. I'm like, did you guys let them know?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, and I said, don't be afraid to let people know what's going on, especially if it's coming from your clients, because it gives them a chance to correct it, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to make sure they correct it because they want to continue to work with you, right? And I honestly think
I remember
that's
I had
why.
that one who called me and I called him back like an hour later.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, sorry, I'm already
Right?
busy. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. See?
I'm like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. I was in a meeting. I got back to you as soon as I could.
Yeah.
And then something happened with that lender. And then they ended up closing with me anyway.
Yes.
But yeah, like,
And you told me you're like, Apple, when you get somebody like that, please tell them,
yeah,
like, hey.
like, or text me and
Yep.
say, hey, you need to call this person right now.
Yep.
Because, you know, obviously maybe I could have just been like, hey, give me a minute. I got to step out and
Yeah.
just take this call really quick.
Yep.
But,
Yep. Or before sending them the phone number,
yeah, like,
Right.
hey, this person's going to call you.
are you available right
Yeah,
now? Or
and they ended up being like great clients, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But like I remember when I got that call, I was like, oh, jeez,
I
man,
know.
they didn't give me much of a chance. But it's
I know.
cutthroat industry,
I
and on
know.
both of our ends.
Yes,
you
I
know,
know.
so you have to be available
Yeah.
all the
All the
freaking
time.
time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, leads into. Oh well, you're on vacation all the time. Oh no, I go to cool places
Yeah.
and work.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
no.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I have fun,
I have just
but
awesome offices everywhere.
yeah, and when I'm in the snow, you're on the lift. I'm making
You're
calls.
with me.
Yeah,
You don't
yeah,
feel that?
yeah.
When I'm in the air?
I'll FaceTime you. You know.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that honest feedback is super important for everyone because, and don't be scared to, help each other get better.
Well, sure, and like
Yeah.
especially with a specific client that
Mm-hmm.
might be like, sometimes they'll come over to us and just lay it all out
Yeah.
where they were being super shy or, passive with you guys, and then
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh, here's what's going on.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
maybe they're going through a divorce or
Yeah.
there's things they don't want to just talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But with me as a lender, they have to let it all out.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Jeremy, because we had one that we were doing together and Faith was communicating with that client. And I was just like, okay, this is my client. And he was night and day every other day. And
Yeah.
she shared something with me that I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that because you guys deal with this so much more. She was like, you know what, Apple, what I've seen with clients that are in divorce situations is that any little thing that talks about their ex triggers them.
Oh.
And for whatever reason, that didn't even resonate with me, or I didn't even think about that with my own client.
Yeah.
And when she shared that with me, I was like, oh my gosh, that's it.
Yeah.
Because every time he called, it had it was something to do with the ex, and I was like, that totally makes sense. Again, it's that lender and agent dynamic
Yeah.
of being able to talk to each other about, hey, maybe it's this, maybe it's that.
Yeah.
And then another piece that I love, like when you get to this kind of a level of relationship with the people you work with, right? I mean, Jeremy, how many times do I call you and I'm like, hey, like, is this possible? Can we do it this way? Like they're asking this, and can we do that? Can we do this?
Or hey, this deal's falling apart.
Yes.
And
yeah. Or I'm like, hey, this isn't my buyer. It's my listing.
Yeah.
You know how many times we've like moved over the buyer.
Well, and
the
I
buyer's
eat that
agent?
up. Like that's honestly, that's what I love about this today.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, bring it.
Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
like, that sounds
It's
like a challenge.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
that whole, can I do it because someone else didn't,
Yeah.
wasn't able to do it?
Well, and then I
right?
go around gloating that I
We
fixed
all
it.
do.
Yeah,
We
it's
all
like, yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yep, that was me. I fixed everyone's life.
Yeah. And it's a feel good.
100%.
It's a
those
feel
are the things that keep me in it today.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a point in your career where experience actually really does matter.
Oh,
right?
100%.
It doesn't matter
Yeah.
all of the time, but there comes a point where experience matters.
If you have a perfect escrow,
Mm-hmm.
a perfect buyer, perfect bank statements,
Yeah.
you can use a new agent. You could
Yeah.
use a new loan officer.
Yep. Yep.
But how many of those do we have?
Never.
Maybe like
Maybe once every
2%,
yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. For sure.
And the ones you think are going to be perfect and easy,
Yeah.
it turns out like, oh, you have tax liens. How did this happen? You
Yeah.
know? Or wait, you're still married? Where? Oh, this person's in Mexico?
No. No.
Like,
This one was years ago. I don't know if you probably won't remember this one.
if it was exciting, I might.
No, so I had a military client and relocating from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I did everything through FaceTime.
Yeah.
Right. And we were getting ready to close. It was probably like 7 to 10 days.
Sure.
Right. And he forgot to tell everybody that he was married. And I was just like, what do you mean that you're married and you have a baby and you're bringing them all here to Japan and you're buying a house? Like, it's kind of important that you tell us that. You know
Yeah,
what I
and
mean?
on a VA loan or an FHA
Yeah.
or a USDA loan, the spouse's debt has to be calculated into the.
Yeah.
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 That's kind of important.
And I'm like, okay, let me see what we can all do for you. Let's
Yeah,
see if we can still keep this together.
I would like to say that I do remember it, and it's the only one I've ever had in that situation.
But you haven't.
That's happened so
like,
many times.
that
You're
they're
like,
actually married.
it's actually on the application.
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
been cool if you check that box.
Yeah. Or how about like you're like, if they got married it will work, and you're all okay, they're married now. Like a day later they go to the courthouse.
Yeah, jump into something similar topic, but yeah, I've been called the matchmaker before.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm
I
like,
believe it.
well, if you guys actually get married, I'm like, how long you been together? 2 weeks? No problem. No, just kidding. They've been together a long time,
Yeah.
and I'm like, they were getting married anyway, and
Yeah.
I said, look, like, yeah, I get you had planned to get married, say it's like April now.
Mm-hmm.
They had plans to get married in July. I said, what if you went down to the courthouse today or next week, did all the paperwork, you don't tell anyone, but then you go have your big wedding and you just happen to be married 2 months before.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
people
and they
do
did
that
it.
all the time anyway.
Yeah, especially the military. There's
Yeah.
other reasons for them to get married.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, and I self-proclaimed matchmaker after a couple of those.
You're a miracle worker for sure.
I feel
Jerry.
like
Miracle worker
sometimes
for
they
sure.
should like, well, if you weren't married, we
Yeah.
could qualify you too.
I remember the
I have
whole-
not encouraged that.
we have a
Yeah.
court letter that says you guys are separated.
Oh my God. Shh,
Joking.
don't tell them my secrets. No.
So funny.
Oh
my God.
man. All right. Let's see. So Apple, what do you see in the market today, and what do you feel? Obviously, inventory rates and everything. What are you feeling out there, and what are you hearing, and what are you seeing?
I think that the cloud of fear is finally lifting
From the interest rate fear.
from the interest rates.
Sure.
The standstill of all the buyers and the sellers too.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think for myself right now, just speaking for myself and being in the industry for so long, it's not that it's easy. It's just I get to lean on a lot of people that I've helped in the past, right? So the conversation's a lot easier of being able to provide different options like refinancing. We were talking about this the other day, right?
Because they trust you.
Yes, they trust me already.
They've already done transactions, at least one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for brand new agents or first time home buyers, and it's like if they don't have a trusted relationship right now with a real estate agent or a lender, we come off already like, hey, it's a great time to buy because interest rates are lower, or interest rates are a lot lower than they were, when your great grandparents bought a house, whatever, right? So we come off super
Way better than 1950. Right
yeah,
now.
like they don't want to hear that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
So I think though that if you really pay attention to wants and needs, number one, and
Sure.
then you're confident about being able to provide them the information they need to help them make a decision, you're going to help them move forward,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's what a lot of us in our industry need to remember is
Yeah.
like, don't underestimate your own confidence with the customer, right?
Yeah.
Because they're getting it from us,
And,
you
and,
know?
and I would add to that, their need might not match yours.
Right.
And so I feel like some agents, new and old, probably more new, will do more talking than listening.
We're
You know?
asking the questions,
Yeah.
right?
But asking the questions, and I'm guilty of this because in my brain works faster than most in certain situations. So like I already know what they're going to tell me,
Right.
and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
and I want to fast forward. But when you're dealing with what they want, you want to know, especially a buyer or even a seller.
Yeah.
Like you want to know why they want to sell or what their goals are
Right.
before you present them with an outcome. Same with me and lending. Like, are we buying down points? Well, maybe not because you're in the military and you're only going to stay there 3 years or whatever the case may be, Yeah.
You know,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna add, like, we were talking about how, like, we already know what they're gonna say, right? Like, buyers right now, especially if we don't know them, they say the interest rates are too high. Even my clients that I've helped in the past, Apple interest rates are so high, right? But they have some kind of hope that they can either downsize or upgrade. Buyers want to buy their first home, so it's like, um, agent agent number one who really doesn't know what to say. They're like, yeah, you're right. Interest rates are way too high. Or agent number two that's like been in the business a little bit. They come off super strong. They're like, oh, but you don't. No. Interest rates are not too high. Like they're coming down, right? Versus agent number three who has a little bit more experience and knows how to listen for the need or the want. It's so Jeremy, I can definitely hear the concern. If you don't mind me asking, where would interest rates need to be in order for you to feel comfortable to want to take the first step on buying a home?
And how many of them don't know how to answer that question?
Yeah, they're like,
Because
oh,
they don't
yeah.
even know what the difference is in payment.
Exactly,
or
right?
anything like
so
that.
you ask that question and they say, I don't know. Great. So if
So
you don't
then-
mind me asking, what are you currently renting right now? And they're like, yes. Awesome. What
So
are
your
you
rate's
currently paying for?
100%.
Yeah. So it's like, what are you currently
Yeah.
renting right now? And they'll tell you $2,500 a month. I'm like,
Yeah.
great, good for you, Jeremy. How long have you been doing that?
Yeah.
So you ask these questions, and
Do
I'm
the
like,
math.
okay, if there was a way that I can help you buy a home and still keep your monthly payments at exactly the same amount that you're currently renting right now, would you like to know how we can move forward on taking the first step?
Yeah.
Right? What did we just do? We depleted their concern of interest
you
rates are
just
too
moved past
high.
that.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's being able to pull information from a buyer that they're fixated on the one thing that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
Because it's so much deeper than just the interest rate.
Well,
you know?
and it's been beaten into their heads for the past 5 years.
Right.
Because
That's
even
all we hear.
because all we talked about when they were low was they
Yeah.
were low.
Yeah.
And then they go up and they're high. You had said something the other day that I've actually repeated a lot is you had a client that heard about a 5.99 rate on something, and what was his or hers comment about that rate? Do you remember what you said? You said, wow, that's a really good rate. And which it is in today's environment,
Right.
but it made me go, wow, that's awesome that they're, it's been 3 years now since we've had rates in the threes. But now that's their mentality is that's a good rate.
Yeah.
Because 2 years ago or a year ago, if they heard that, they would have pushed me out into the street.
Right. Exactly.
and been terrified.
Yeah. I just did a video and to send out to my my people in my database, and I asked the question of, have rates finally come down? right? Like
What day did you do that?
probably the day after I talked to you about, hey, I know. And then you came yesterday. I'm like, crap. I'm like, that's too late. It's okay. But by the time they get it, rates might
It'll be
have,
good again.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, so anyhow.
I'll just tell you, like, I'll just text you, hit send.
Yeah,
You
I know. So,
The question always comes up of, is now a good time to buy? And I know how I feel about this. So I wanted to hear your take on it, and then
yeah.
I'll see if mine is probably perfectly aligned with yours. But
You know what comes to mind, Jeremy? Everyone's like waiting for the rates to go down. I'm like, that's awesome. But you know what hasn't gone down? Home prices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Would you say last year, do you know how much we've increased in the last 2 years? I mean, increased on values?
From last year or just
Last year and the year before.
So from last year, almost 4%.
Yeah.
Okay, but from between 21 and 23, it was 18%.
Yeah, that was a huge number.
Right?
What about 23 and 24?
24. I don't know.
So
I
I want to say it was
last year to this year.
I want to say it was similar to last year.
Like about
so
4%, right?
yeah, so if you waited because you've been waiting for interest rates to drop, you're now buying at an 8% higher value.
Since 2023.
And have you looked at some of those like statistics on how far back, like the values really only dipped in like 3 years around when the mortgage market meltdown happened.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then somewhere in like 92, I think they dipped
Yeah.
a little bit. And I'm not sure why that was. I was in junior high.
Yeah.
So
92, I was like 9. Yeah.
dang
So.
it. Yeah,
I was like,
you win.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously there's one reason to buy.
yeah. Like
Anything else?
economically, right? Economically.
Yeah.
Is it a good time to buy? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Like in a logical standpoint, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Because you keep waiting, prices are continuing to go up regardless of whether or not you are in the market.
Sure.
So
Would you say, like I always say, long term, it always makes sense. I bought homes, rental properties back in 2005 and 2006. And at the time I thought, oh my gosh, if I don't buy something, I'm never going to be able to afford to buy. Because it was similar to the last few years where they just shot up.
right.
The difference between then and now is there was a lot of mortgages that were speculative, and that's what caused the drastic downturn. But after 10 years of owning those houses, the values have surpassed what they once were.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
a win,
Like for personal experience, right? I bought my first house in 2009 for $311 at 7.9% interest rate, by the way. Right? And that house now, if I could get it back, I would have to pay about $525 for it.
There you go.
Right? And then I look back on my first year or 2 years of real estate, and I was selling boarded up short sale homes that were 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 1,400 square feet for $60,000. And so everybody was my best friend. All the investors back then were my best friends because I was picking up those for short sales, and those are now worth $350,000, $400,000,
I
probably
bought a couple
more.
of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what are we waiting for? What are we waiting on? Prices to
Well,
go
the
down,
other
interest
thing,
rates?
the other thing is what's happened to rents in the past 10 years as well. So
Crazy.
yeah, I would say they're up in 10 years 100%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so let's take someone that might be paying $1,800 a month in rent today, and for them to buy a house, they might have to go up to 2,900, which is a huge step for them. But with tax incentives and everything that you're going to save, you look at that and know that I'm going to do a 30-year fixed loan for you. And worst case scenario, it stays the same.
Yep.
But in 10 more years, your 1,800 a month is now 3,600, but your owning the home is now a really good deal,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And so that's how I always looked at it. I've referenced things like a gallon of milk was, and unfortunately, I have no sense of reality on groceries because I haven't grocery shopped in a
Yeah.
long time.
So maybe
But
gas.
like gasoline would be a good
Yeah.
example. I mean, that's kind of controlled,
Yep.
but you know, all the commodities are going to move up with inflation. The other thing that's going to move up with inflation is rent.
Yep.
So if you're renting a home and you're looking at buying and it's a big jump, but you can afford it, and that's my thing I always say. The best time to buy a house is when you can afford
Yep.
it.
You've always told me that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've
And
always told me that.
and it's been very well to me,
Yeah.
so
I think too, right, like when they ask, is it a good time to buy? My first thing is, I'd love to help you decide whether or not it's a good time to buy for you, right? And that's where all of us have to lean into our expertise of being able to sit down and understand kind of how to navigate through what their expenses are
yeah.
and being able to show them whether or not it financially makes sense for them to help them make that decision.
Yeah, I have
Right?
some people that come to me and they're just like, they want the max pre-approval. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
what do you like to do?
right.
If we just like to sit at home and eat top ramen,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Watch Netflix movies.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe from your friend's account because
Yeah.
I'm maxing you
Yeah,
out.
maxing you out.
Yeah, like your Netflix is going to be limited. It's going to
Yeah.
be not the deluxe version or whatever, like I know anything about Netflix. But
Well, it's kind of, I was just speaking at the Lemoore College and I went over two things on how to manage money in the real world.
Yeah.
And I had them write down two words, right? Gross versus net income.
ooh,
And I'm
I like that.
gross income is not what you budget around, right?
However, that's how we do
I know,
loans.
exactly,
Yeah.
right? But net income is what you budget around when you
100%.
are budgeting,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, so when you talk about give me the max approval, you're like, I'm going to give you your max approval based off of your gross. But
Yeah.
that's not necessarily what you should be budgeting around.
And someone who is savvy in finance will give me their net income.
Right.
Like I had a guy I was talking to today, and he's like, "Well, I make this net," and I'm like, "Well, what's your gross?" And he's like, "I don't even know."
Yeah.
Because why would you?
Yeah. Yeah. And realistically, he wants to get approved for what he
Yeah,
actually
he's
brings
like,
home.
"What percent of my income can I feel comfortable with?" And that's the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, like there's times where I've had clients where one is working full time, the other one is in nursing school. Well, we know nurses make, 80 to 100,000, some plus if they're doing a lot of overtime or whatnot. So knowing that, like maybe a 2-1 buy down makes sense for that
Yeah.
person because
Yeah.
we can get them into something that's going to keep their payment down for 2 years, and they gradually come into it when the spouse comes out of nursing school and they all get jobs super quick.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
there's ways to make it work
Yep.
for sure.
Just goes back, right, to them. It's like, are you ready? Can you afford it? Like
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah, and
know?
just the comfort level.
Not basing it off of what the economy is doing, what the interest rates are doing,
Yeah.
what the home values are doing. It's springtime, right? Like
It's hard sometimes, like the economy, like the stock market, all this different stuff goes into these thoughts.
Yep.
But really, you just got to focus on you
Yep.
and what you can afford and your job stability. And let's face it, time flies, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people look and I say, I'm 46. I'm 47 now. But if you,
Just slightly over 46.
Yes.
Come on.
I was I mean,
Just a few
I feel
weeks
like I
ago,
was
you were still
45
46.
a month ago, though. Like, that's how fast it goes. And I try to explain that because I do a lot of loans for kids, I would say, that are in their 20s. Like, you bought your first home when you were 22,
I know.
which is amazing.
Crazy.
And I think that separates a lot of people's wealth later in life
Yeah.
on how fast they get started. Not to say any time
Yeah.
in your life, but the sooner you can do it, the better.
Yeah,
You
for
know.
sure. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Apple, this is an exciting one. If you weren't in the real estate industry, what would you be doing with your life?
I'd honestly go back to dealing cards.
Mm.
I actually enjoyed it. It was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. So just, the different walks of life that go through the casino. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like pro gambling or anything like that. I promise. But
Do you enjoy talking to the people?
yes, I enjoyed talking to
You-
the people, different walks of life.
Do you consider yourself an extrovert?
I don't.
Interesting.
I'm not.
So that
I
forced
actually have
you.
social anxiety, believe it or not.
Do you
So,
really?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I wonder, when you first got into it, were you more quiet behind the table?
Yeah.
You deal blackjack?
Blackjack.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think what it is like it's kind of similar in a sense with real estate, because when you're dealing cards, you're at a table,
Mhm.
right? And it's a one-on-one conversation
Yeah.
a lot of the times.
Yeah.
So like real estate, it's a one-on-one conversation with your clients.
And it kind of forces you to have that
Yeah,
conversation.
like to carry a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's just one person in front of you.
Do you feel like that job has helped you today in your career?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked every holiday for 9 years, right?
I wasn't
Like,
meaning that part of it, but
well,
yeah.
What I'm saying is like
that
every
as well.
crazy holiday, New
Yeah.
Year's, whatever, all that. Like
100%.
I have thick skin for real estate because of my past job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's every no, I've been cussed out, I've been whatever, blown smoke in my face, being 6 months pregnant, right? Like, but the reason why I say I would do that again, I would only do it if I owned my own casino, number one,
Mm,
right? Like my own card room or
that
something,
sounds lucrative.
right? And I get to choose when
Yeah.
I get to deal cards.
Because you don't want to have a boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it would be fun. Like I had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah.
So
That's rad.
yeah.
Yeah, I like playing blackjack, and it's not because I'm a big gambler by any means. Like,
Yeah.
I would rather play a $5 table if
Yeah.
they exist. They just don't exist
Yeah.
anymore.
Maybe every so
But
often.
yeah, it'd have to be
Downtown
in a
Vegas or something.
rough casino. I'd be like, oh boy, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it because I'm an extrovert,
Ah.
and so I'm at the table high-fiving the guys from Texas, and now we're new best friends, and
Yeah.
trying not to blow the smoke in the pregnant blackjack dealer's face.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Yeah.
not that guy.
awful.
But yeah, no, I have a good time
Yeah.
just playing games and
Yeah.
talking to people.
Yeah.
So,
What would you do, Jeremy?
oh
You're like,
gosh,
no, I want to do loans forever.
oh man, there's days that I don't want to do loans, believe it or not. But then I will help that first-time home buyer do
Yeah.
whatever, and it's like, oh, it just made me feel successful and
Yeah.
gets me going. But I honestly, it's hard to say. Before I started, I had a little screen printing and sign business, and then I had a landscaping business.
Yeah.
So I definitely didn't look at those businesses when I was in them as lifelong careers. I was going to school while I was doing them. I think I would be in some sort of sales as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. Yeah, because I like dealing with people, and I think the thing with real estate is I believe in it, and it's worked for me.
Yeah.
So it's something easy to sell. Like, I don't think I could sell something that didn't make sense. Maybe I would be in solar or something like that.
Yeah?
Because, yeah, but that's sometimes hard too.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I wanted to be a professional snowboarder,
Okay.
but
Is that time passed?
I was just doing some life insurance stuff, and it asked if I competed in skiing or snowboarding.
Oh my gosh.
So I had to answer,
Yes.
I did, but I'm not anymore.
Okay.
So my wife might have put that question in there so I would stop,
Yeah.
you know? I'm kidding. But no, it truly was on that question. But yeah, it wasn't good enough. I was too scared
Oh.
to go as big, but I still have fun. I love to do it. But yeah, I don't.
I'm surprised you didn't say that as your first name. I'm like, you're always on the mountain.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. It's just not quite as lucrative as the other businesses. I think.
Yeah.
I
You're like,
would-
how do you make all that money though on the mountain?
Yeah, so I did live in Mammoth for those 2 years, and I made $6.20 an hour. Yeah, and I did deal with people who were very, very nice, and I dealt with people who were very, very not nice and entitled, and something happened to them on their mountain, and since I was wearing a Mammoth shirt as an employee of the mountain,
Yeah.
it was my fault.
Yeah.
You know, even though that was completely in a totally different area, and it taught me to, you know, bite my tongue. Back then I wasn't quite as good as it and at
Yeah.
it, and realistically at $6.20 an hour, if I lost my job, it wasn't
Gosh,
the end
that's
of the
so
world.
crazy.
Yeah, you know, it wasn't a lot of money then. I think my rent was $200. And I remember one time my mom came and visited me and bought me groceries, and it was a big deal, you know.
You're like, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, no, I was. It was like lots of hot pockets, and you know,
That was a
I was
life.
a gourmet chef back then, you know. So
I
yeah.
still remember working at the casino, and it was $8.25 an hour.
Yeah, well, most of your money would come from tips.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was crazy.
yeah. I remember a guy gave me a $20 tip for like, this is crazy story. He was a real estate guy.
Oh, you
And
go.
he was like coming through just like boom, boom, boom
Yeah.
from LA and
Yeah.
hot shot. And I remember going, that was one of the reasons I got into real
You're
estate.
like,
Because
I'm
I'm
gonna
like,
be that guy.
I want to be the guy that has all the money that gets to go skiing. And little did I know that you're working your whole life and every day. But I saw him when he was on vacation, and he was
Yeah.
just like, he was honestly like, I mean, besides like the, you know, pink outfit that Dumb and Dumber had,
Yeah, yeah.
but you know, when he's going, there you go, there you go. Like it was like that, and that guy parked right in front, tipped everyone, and then he came up
And you're just sitting here watching him like that.
yeah, and he asked me to help him do something. I'm like, yeah, no problem, and I went and did it. He's like, here's $20. I'm like, that was almost 3 hours worth of work. You know, that's big. That was like $100 tip today.
Yeah, yeah. Today,
You know,
for
so
sure.
yeah, that's one reason I got in. Crazy.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, professional snowboarder didn't work out.
Yeah. That's okay, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I'm glad it didn't.
Yes, I think it worked out for a
Yeah.
lot of other people
Yes.
that I
yes,
didn't go into that.
For sure.
All right, Apple, what drives you crazy, and what would be your pet peeve in real estate?
Ooh. Like one only, Jeremy?
Maybe more, multiple. You know, we can start with one.
Um, man, I can't think of anything on top of my head right now. What's your number one pet peeve?
Ooh, I would say, you know, first thing that comes to mind is a personality with agents, but it could be an agent, it could be an escrow officer, it could be a loan officer.
Yeah.
It's when, because throughout a transaction, many things come up. Wouldn't you agree? On almost every single one,
Yeah.
there's something that'll happen, regardless if it's the most perfect deal. And when you say it's the most perfect deal, it never is.
Yeah.
It's like the ones that you think are going to be hard that end up being easier. But an agent that explodes and or an escrow officer, but typically I'm dealing more with agents.
Right.
So I'm seeing that
Right.
more, and they make the smallest thing into a
The
big
biggest
deal.
thing. Yeah.
And it's like, oh great, now this isn't going to work. And then the
Yeah.
buyer, like, we're doing our job to make them feel as comfortable as
Yep.
possible, but that just goes all out the window because they just felt that emotion.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, is this bad?
So good. Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
could totally go, you know, we found that there's $2,000 worth of termites
Yeah.
on this, and we're working it out.
Mm-hmm.
There's termites almost in every house in California. It's
Mm-hmm.
not something that we're worried about. We're only worried about it if we can't come to a conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, it's, we're going to ask the seller to fix it. And if they don't, between myself and Jeremy, we're going to come to the conclusion that we can make it happen, or whatever.
Right.
But like
The problem solving part of it.
100%.
Yeah.
And I am such a problem solver that when someone has the attitude that it's the end of the world,
Right.
it just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because then everyone just now became
Yep.
just became not fun anymore, so
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
Especially on things that, I mean, dude, things happen that are gnarly and kill
Right.
deals,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about the things that are like not a big deal and turn out to be this huge ordeal.
Yeah.
And it's not with new agents a lot of times, it's
Yep.
people that are just grumpy and been in it a
I
long
know.
time, maybe.
It's
and you're
almost like,
like,
oh, it's time
time
to
to
retire.
retire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jinx. Yeah.
I know. Or all we know what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. That's probably up there too with mine.
Yeah.
I think one of my biggest pet peeves with agents, I'm probably it's gonna be they blow you up. Can I show you your listing? Can I show you your listing? Right? And so you're like scrambling to get them in there. And I'm like, please use the showing instructions. Read the showing instructions. Number one pet peeve is that they don't read the showing instructions. But you work so hard to get them to get in the house, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, so how'd it go? Right? Like, can you give me some feedback for the seller? And it's crickets.
Oh, so I thought you were gonna say like they didn't even show it or something.
No, they show it.
But they're like
then,
broing out with you, like,
yeah, they're like, hey,
hey,
how's
buddy,
it
old
going?"
pal. And then
Uh-huh.
it's like,
Yeah, and I'm like,
who dis?
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can squeeze you in there. Let me see, they're like,
Yeah, you just went above and beyond, and they're just like,
and then I'm like, give me some
Apple
feedback.
who?
Yeah. No, I don't even get that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
like,
like-
that would be even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just crickets after that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, you guys, just remember I'm noting this, for the next time, be like, use the showing instructions.
Yeah, and that's the
Kinda,
thing.
yeah.
It's like it's a small town.
Yeah.
Like we're probably going to work together again.
Exactly.
Might want to return a
I'm
text
sure
or a
you
call.
will. I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like what you were saying, right? Like the whole let's work together kind of thing. It's like sometimes we can't control what your clients. I mean, we do our best, but what your clients want to offer.
Sure.
And the pet peeve of the agent is speaking for the client already.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's as if you're the one buying the house, or it's as if you're the one selling the home.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Like they're not going to even present it. To
yeah,
them.
or, it's like the buyer won't go for that, or the seller won't go for that. And I'm
And you're like, did you ask them?
yeah.
I'm just assuming, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no, they told me. And I'm like, okay, that. It's
Yeah.
versus the whole, you know what, Jeremy, let me see, go ahead and send it over. Let me see what I can do on my end, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's work together and see if there is something we could do together.
100%.
To put it together, to keep it together, whatever.
Especially in these small communities, because when there's 5 offers on that table next
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
your offers might get accepted because they liked you.
Yep. Or understanding like, hey, you have no offers on the table. How about we work together to get you one? You know what I mean? Right?
That's always nice as well.
Yes.
I think I know a pet peeve of yours that actually works out for me
Oh,
is when you get a lender that can't perform.
oh my gosh, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm like, Jeremy, can you just take over?
Yeah.
Just take over. I'm going to switch this
Yeah.
agent over to you.
Yeah. I think most realtors would say one of their biggest pet peeves is an out-of-town lender, for one,
Yes.
that just couldn't close the deal.
Yes.
However, I love those kind of people because I do a better job because of them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't even have to do that good
Yeah.
and still be better,
Yeah.
you know?
Or the lenders that this is my pet peeve of some lenders that, you know, are not representing my client, but I'm on the listing side. It's like, hey, we just opened escrow. Like, your client that you got pre-approved just got their offer accepted. I mean, do you think that there's some kind of sense of urgency in there? Respond to us sooner than 7 days later? You know what I
Nothing.
mean? Like, nothing.
Wow.
And we're like checking in with the agent, and we're like, hey, so have you heard from the lender? Like,
Yeah.
we're 7 days in. You know what I mean? Like, that is a
That's
huge pet
insane.
peeve of lenders for me.
I had one, it was maybe a month or two ago, and they're like, "Hey, did you order the appraisal?" And I'm like, "No. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And they spelled my name wrong in the email, like the introduction email, but it was like Jeremy Engle or Jeremy Engle at jeremyengle.com instead
Yeah.
of just Jeremy, something like that. So everyone just assumed, and
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine it got kicked back, but
Oh my gosh. But
yeah,
you know,
I'm
it's
like-
an email thread, right? Like,
yeah,
you
and there's
probably didn't see it.
some of those ones that go out in the beginning, there's like 19 people on or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
not literally, but
Yeah.
a lot, like
Yeah.
6 or 7 sometimes.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm like, no, I didn't. So I was like having a heart attack searching
my
for it. And I
gosh.
go, send me a screenshot of who you sent it to. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's
That's
the
not
problem.
me.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not me.
Yeah.
And then you close it in like what, 5 days?
I closed it on time. Yeah. I mean, the pressure wasn't there that bad after. I just thought that accident. You ever have it where like you might have like pulled your phone out of your pocket and deleted an email or something?
Oh
I
my
was
gosh.
like,
Yeah.
like how did this happen?
Yeah.
Like immediately thought it was my fault
Right.
and I did something wrong. But
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
fortunately, it wasn't. You know, because I never make mistakes, right?
Never, Jeremy. Never.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeremy, what's the fastest loan you've ever closed in your career?
So
Financed loan. Financed.
okay, so before TRID, because now we have those waiting
Waiting
periods,
period,
right? Was 3 days.
That's insane.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty cool. And it was back when I wasn't as busy
Yeah.
and I was growing, so I was like,
But still, to even, I mean,
yeah, it was a kind of an interest. It was a VA loan, and so the VA loan has an appraisal that's attached to the property at the
Okay.
time.
okay.
Now it's attached to the borrower.
Yeah.
So the appraisal was already done.
Okay.
So that saved me, that waiting period. But we didn't have any disclosure waiting periods.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to do it in 3 days. And granted, it was all hands on deck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a superhero, and we talked
That's so
about it for a
awesome.
long time. I think recently it's like 7 to 8 days is the record.
Wow.
It's whatever the TRID wait period is. And
Plus a few more days out.
yeah, it depends
Okay.
if it, if a weekend falls in the middle,
Yeah.
or a holiday,
Yeah.
because actually a bank holiday would not be a TRID wait period day.
Mhm.
So like when you have Monday off,
Right.
so that would knock into that.
Yeah.
But usually these days, it's either I'm saving a deal, and I'm still trying to make the escrow, and I love to do that.
Yeah,
So like when
I
it's
know.
like a saved deal, I'm like, how many days do I have?
That totally
You know?
like it like wakes you up.
Yeah.
I swear.
Yeah, it's fun. The other thing is like builder deals. Builders have to hit.
Mm-hmm.
They have like goals, and they're wanting to hit by the end of the month, and definitely by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And the end of the year, like you don't really think about it, but you have Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and you
Just
have
imagine.
Christmas, and Thanksgiving is usually 2 days off, and then you have Christmas, and I think there's one more holiday
There's
in
something in
there
between
too.
there. Yeah.
And then you have New Year's, and it depends how it all falls.
Yep.
But you're like, it's got to be close before Christmas,
Yeah.
and then even before that,
Yeah.
it's just
And most people, right? Like Thanksgiving, it's almost like there's a standstill, and then people go into contract right after Thanksgiving or a week after Thanksgiving, and you're like, oh my gosh, 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks.
for sure.
Yeah.
Or they wanted to buy because they want to host Thanksgiving at their new house.
Yep. And you're like,
And
Yeah.
you're trying to close, and if you don't, I mean, you have to wait 5 days
yeah.
to fund that, because Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
are all holidays.
holidays.
Yeah. So
So crazy.
yeah, it's if you missed that escrow, yeah, you're funding till 3 o'clock that day for
Yeah.
sure. And escrow's on standby. So, yeah. But these are like, you see my smile. This is why I like this.
You're
you
like,
know?
I love it.
Yeah, I glow because of it and because
So
it's hot in here.
Yeah. So well, Jeremy, thank you for having me on today. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you so much for being on. And if people want to reach out to you, where's the best place to get you?
well, on Facebook, Apple Corial Sims, and then on our Instagram page, it's Apple Corial Real Estate. So you guys can just simply give us a call. It's at 559-202-3303. So would love to help out any way I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.